Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. Today I'm going to be talking about another Goosebumps book. This is from the Most Wanted era of Goosebumps, so around like 2013 or so. And this one is special edition number 3, which means it's a longer book, about 170 pages long, instead of your typical 115 or 130 page long story. This is called Trick or Trap by R.L. Stine. Now, first off, this cover is BS. Don't fall for it. This cover is an absolute lie. This is not a zombie story. I repeat, it is not a zombie story, nor is it really a Halloween story. Halloween is partially involved with it, but that's about it. Really good book, though. Not my favorite, not even close to being in like my top 10 or anything like that, but very unique, very different from a lot of Goosebumps books that I typically deal with. Of course, the title is kind of a play on one of the older Goosebumps books from back in the day. This is Give Yourself Goosebumps Power Play Special Edition number 7, Trick or Trapped, with a P-E-D at the end. Very hard to find, very expensive book now. Very blessed to have it. This book is not amazing, but it is very unique. Like I said, if you remember my review recently of a classic Goosebumps book from the original 62 book run, I read a book called You Can't Scare Me. I'm like the only person on the planet that absolutely adored the book and thought it was really good. That book was very unique and very different for its time, too. It felt very different pretty much to any Goosebumps book I've ever read. And Trick or Trap feels a lot like that book. In the sense of just being so different, being a lot slower paced as a story. It's a very slow book. About 70 pages in, you finally get the real villain, I would say, or at least the real focus of the story that kind of becomes more important as the story goes along. This is so much slower paced than most Goosebumps books. I would argue, I think a lot of people, especially younger readers, might not end up liking this book that much. And even by the end of the book, there's not a whole lot of creepy happenstance to it. There's not really a whole lot of, anything. It's really just about the tone of the book, and really a lot of atmosphere, frankly. And I liked it a lot. I thought it really worked. I thought it was a very different shakeup from Stine himself. So I recommend it in that front. I thought the tone and everything, the atmosphere just really worked for me. For anybody who hasn't read Trick or Trap, essentially the story of this is based around two friends, Scott and Amanda. Scott's our main character, Amanda's his best friend, and they're absolutely terrified of everything. They have a terror of everything, and there's 3 guys that bully them all the time and basically dare them to go do stuff, which when I say dare with some quotation marks around it, I mean in the sense of they kind of just tell them, like, hey, you're going to go eat dirt. But they'll say it in a way that's like, hey, I dare you to go eat some dirt, which means they're going to force that dirt down your throat, essentially. Terrible people. Terrible, terrible people. And at one point, the main character, Scott, and his best friend, Amanda, end up inside of a haunted, supposedly, house on their neighborhood. And I feel like I went deaf in my ear. It's very weird. Anyway, they essentially go inside of the house and they happen to find a box, and Scott takes the box with him and runs out of the house and everything. Turns out inside of the box, there is actually kind of like a scarfy type thing, but there's also a wooden mask, and it happens to be one of these Day of the Dead masks from the Mexican tradition. And it's actually like a wooden mask with a face coming out of the top of the mask on the forehead. Very creepy description. And then weird things start happening around with Scott. Now again, I think personally, since there's no picture anywhere on the front of this of a mask or anything aside from the sort of kind of haunted house, I guess, in the background. I thought it was 2 houses, but I guess not. It's just one big house. Again, it's not even really a Halloween story. This is really ridiculous how this was marketed, I think. It's nuts. It's not a zombie story. There's no zombies in the book, so it was kind of a ridiculous ripoff, honestly, but I still had a good time reading it. Again, it's much more about the tone and the atmosphere and the focus on what this mask does. Apparently, when you put this mask on, which I originally thought maybe it's going to be kind of a, not a ripoff, but kind of a new version or an updated version of the haunted mask type idea from Goosebumps, but it wasn't. Essentially what it is when you put this mask on, it almost transports you mentally into like another dimension, sort of like an alternate timeline type thing. So for example, he has a vision of his mom and his sister, who's also mean to him all the time too, and himself having dinner, and the mom brings over a cow tongue. Yeah, like from their mouth, right? And she's like telling him it's his favorite dish and stuff, and Scott's like, no, it's not. And he can't really figure out what's going on. But it's kind of creepy. The story itself is kind of creepy, but it does take forever to get going. Again, this is a 160 or 70 page story, I would say. And it's not fast. It's not fast by any means. It took me a little while to get through it just because I haven't been in a big reading mood. I've been kind of reading different things and watching different movies and stuff, so I'm glad I finally got around to this and finally talked about it. But it was good. It wasn't amazing. It was good. I recommend it. I think if you like a slower type build to a horror story, I think you'll like this a lot. I think if you're more agitated with slower books, or you have a harder time reading and getting invested in something that's not super interesting but also is more atmospheric than anything, if you're not into that, this is not going to be the book for you. If you like Goosebumps in general, I'd recommend the book. But again, this is so unique, I can't even completely say that's a fair recommendation because of how different it is. But I recommend it. I really like the book. I think there's a lot to it that actually made it more fun than what I thought it would be. But anyway, have you guys read Goosebumps Most Wanted Special Edition number 3, Trick or Trap? Put your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about the book. Do I recommend it? Yeah, like I said, if I had to rate this on a 5-star basis, I'd probably give this like a low 4 out of 5 stars. It was pretty decent. I really dug this. I thought it was worthwhile. Very different from every era of Goosebumps, whether it be the classic stuff, the Series 2000 stuff, the Most Wanted, Goosebumps, Horrorland, any of that. It was so different. Like with how You Can't Scare Me was so different. It just really kind of surprised me. I didn't expect it to be like that. So anyway, what are your thoughts? Put them down below. Thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for being patient, too, for it taking so long for me to get around and finally review this book. I've been trying, but, you know how that goes. Anyway, may the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.